as they stare at the God Killer who had slain so many of their fellow divine brethren. But still standing there, drooling, unresponsive, and in a vegetative state after being trapped in an infinite nightmare, is Vegito. Oh, you are so much more of a delight to look at when you can't talk, aren't you, my dear Vegito? As Madara also watches on with a sense of pleasure in his voice after leaving the so-called God Killer more vulnerable and defenseless than a mere toddler. But as Vegito remains stood still, soon robotic sounds can be heard from the middle of Mule's robotic core, until from within, a hushed voice is heard saying, "Enough of this. It's time I dealt with this dirt myself." And out of the metallic exoskeleton, finally, the miniature Mule appears, draped in his God of Destruction garb. But as we zoom in on his face, his true expression and feelings are revealed, as with an angered, betrothed look, he lets out, "Pathetic. The blood of gods and angels are still all over your clothes. The stench of your actions has not left you even to this day, and the debt of your sins will never be repaid, God Killer. But you can bet I'll collect as much of it as I can. You sorry piece of trash!" As Mule then finally begins stepping out, staring Vegito down and yelling profanities, before, with gritted teeth, he would then begin thinking back and letting out, "You know, even years ago at the Tournament of Power, when I first met you as your separate selves, I always knew you were not to be trusted. Mere mortals, calling themselves Super Saiyan gods? Don't make me laugh, you disgusting subspecies. Accessing some sort of counterfeit divine energy and suddenly placing you in the same realm as us deities? And what's worse, all this while that silly cat Beerus would just gawk and scream like a cheerleader. And now look where that got him. Gone like the rest of them. Gone like my fellow gods!" Instantly, in a wrath of fury, then slamming his fist across the face of the defenseless Vegito, sending his head snapping back without a sound from the God Killer to even respond. Sending Vegito's near lifeless body to slam back onto the ground, far off and back first, as his blade of destruction is let go and falls to the ground, stabbing into it. And still, even with blood now seeping from his chin where Mule struck, he just remains lost, deep within the nightmare. "You damn fool! I'll make you pay for every god you've slain!" As not satisfied with striking the mentally disabled Vegito, Mule rushes in to continue the violence. "Wipe that stupid look off your face, demon!" As brutally, Mule then lands with a thunderous stomp right on Vegito's face, compressing it momentarily inwards as if stepping on a balloon. And viciously, in a rampage of unprovoked assault, Mule would then begin stamping non-stop on the face of the motionless Vegito. But as his face begins to get barraged by the foot of the god, nothing changes on the expression of the God Killer, except for the flurry of blood that gushes out of his face that has also become bruised all over. He won! But after finally growing fatigue from his onslaught on Vegito's face, the God of Destruction quickly turns around to his fellow member and yells, "Listen, I know you don't talk much, but don't you want a piece of this too? All of the destroyers he killed, the stress he caused us, the pain. This is our revenge, my friend. Seize it with both hands." But in response, Iwan just remains calm and silent as expected, levitating off the ground with his hands behind his back before he finally lets out, "Though what you say has some truth, Mule. You may be right. As much as I would enjoy giving that monster over there a true beating, I say we handicap him further first, just in case he wakes up. Allow me to Hakai his arms and legs while he's still like this." The response leading to Mule instantly laughing maniacally as he continues with his foot just above Vegito's face. "What a fine idea, Iwan! To think, you barely speak, but when you do, it is to say the most sadistic ideas. I'll take you up on that offer, but let us do it together. And then, even if he does wake up from this thing, I'd love to see him just try and fight us with just his head." Hold it right there, children. But just as Mule and Iwan become increasingly excited at the idea of dismembering the downed Vegito, a familiar but authoritative voice calls from the shadows. And it is revealed to be, of course, Madara, second of the 5 strongest and defeater of Ultra Vegito. With his hand eccentrically placed on his mask, he would then let out, "Don't even bother with that stupid idea. This one is no ordinary Saiyan from what I've gathered. His body has regeneration abilities somehow. Something to do with a power he refers to as Boo? Who knows whatever that is. But the only way to hurt this one is to erase him completely. However, like I said, the priest himself said he wants him back alive. And if you want to disobey him and deal with the aftermath, then so be it. But I will not be around to protect you fools." Damn it! Causing the smaller God of Destruction Mule to immediately cuss out in frustration, as he begrudgingly grumbles, "You've got to be kidding me! Just what kind of ungodly changes has this freak undergone, huh? Where would he even get access to such things? All from within Universe 7? Huh. But I guess the real question here is, what does the Daishinken want with him? Could it be the time rings? Or maybe Whis' staff? Either way, how annoying we can't enjoy our revenge fully, God Killer. Iwan, you better get a whacking now while you still can." And immediately, as if never having to be told twice, Iwan appears with his foot raised and ready to stamp on Vegito too, yelling back, "So be it then. I'll enjoy this as much as I can." As instantly as the gods begin simultaneously attacking, Madara just watches on bemused, commenting, "What petty, weak beings." And all the while, yet again, Vegeta would just remain unmoving and unable to do a thing as more and more blood and bruises plague him under the brutal beating. But in a curious sight, as we zoom in on his left eye, a sudden stream of tears begins to fall, Could it be in reaction to the physical pain, or perhaps a more emotional and mental one from what is happening within his mind? Let me go! But as we finally peek back into the infinite nightmare the God Killer is trapped in, like a martyr, we see Vegito pinned by chains to a standing tall, T-shaped structure. And below seem to be the once thought erased Gohan, Goten, Trunks, Chi-Chi and Bulma, his family members and the closest people within his life. Hakai! But from a distance, the sinister words of the destroyers unfortunately is heard, and of course, first Trunks begins to erase again. Dad! Before so too is the young Goten. Dad! But still standing now with an angry and panicked voice, Gohan, the oldest son of Vegito, watching on, would scold, "What are you doing? Aren't you going to do anything to stop them, Dad? Do something! Save us! Hakai!" But before any more can be said, the same fate is awaited for the young Saiyan once again. For the third time, now being erased right before the eyes of Vegito. No! Stop it! And when we do see the effects of such trauma on the God Killer, its impact is clear. As with rivers of warm tears flooding down his cheeks and drool shooting out of his mouth as he yells, the God Killer is seen at his lowest and as a shell of his former self, after an unknown quantity of pure, traumatic torture. Goku! Vegeta! But things do not end there, as suddenly, from the particles left behind of his sons, his two wives, Chi-Chi and Bulma, then run in disarray towards their husband. Save us! And instantly, as if holding onto for dear life, literally, the two grab onto the feet of their spouse, not knowing there was nothing Vegito could even do to hug them back. But regardless, with tears flooding down her own eyes, Chi-Chi with a look of sadness and fear would say, "Goku, don't let me die, please." While Bulma, equally sad and tearing up, would add, "Vegeta, don't you love me?" Hakai! But just as tragically as before, both women are instantly then disposed of by the seemingly hidden god surrounding them, and in the most permanent of ways. Chi-Chi! Bulma! Leaving the severely heartbroken Saiyan to just scream out their names one more time, unable to distinguish now reality from illusion anymore. I will kill you! Leaving the God Killer to do the only thing he can as he explodes in power, yelling as hard as he can as if anybody would be able to hear him, as electricity then begins to surround his entire body, yet none of this has even the slightest effect of freeing him from his T-shaped cage. Pathetic. But as Vegito screams and roars, finally, the 12 gods of destruction appear before him, all smiling and snickering, just watching on as if the God Killer was a mere exhibit at the zoo. But suddenly, from all the laughter, a cry is heard. The cry of a baby Pan, as the merciless apparition of Belmont lifts the child by the hair and says, "Seems I have something of yours, Vegito. How do I turn this thing off, eh?" "Burn! You let go of her now! Immediately causing the grandfather, of course, to become furious in an unsurmountable stage of rage as he speaks through gritted teeth. But back in reality, while all this mental trauma goes on, an equal amount of physical damage is laid out too, as the two destroyers Mule and Reborn continue to stamp on Vegito's face until barely a breath can be heard. But back in the dream, Belmont's eye begins to move slowly towards the still crying Pan until... Hakai! With one more final word said, the unthinkable is done to the defenseless child. As in a total throwback to what originally happened on Earth, the young baby Pan is erased prematurely once again, and this time right in front of her grandfather. And instantly, with this sight now in mind, freshly scorched into his eyes, something snaps finally within the now extremely brittle mental state of Vegito. And with his eyes suddenly closing as veins begin to flex on his face, the God Killer would just let out, "My head! Why is my head hurting? Why are you doing this?" Almost as if finally, Vegito was beginning to sense what was happening in the real world now too. And with an ungodly roar that could only be described as coming from a true demon, Vegito screams to the sky, powering up, instantly breaking everything that bound him. But most notably, atop his head, where he was complaining about from being in pain, two vicious and uncharacteristic horns suddenly burst forth from the sides of his temple. And with the horns now at full length, and seemingly not even noticed by Vegito, once his eyes and expression came down back to normal, he begins saying,
"Enough of this. Everything will be paid for now."
Immediately leading to Vegito once again screaming with a truly beastly roar, as the God Killer raises his head straight up and yells to the heavens as if demanding his escape. But soon enough, his entire body, as a result of his power-up, begins to completely become enveloped in a ball of shining energy that spits dark lightning all over until... Back on the outside, the barrage of stamps on Vegito seemingly finally begin to come to an end. As eventually, as the two gods raise their feet for one last time, all that can be heard is the breaths of their exhausted states. That is until... Wait a second. His energy, it's... Out of nowhere, Mule's face is totally lost in a flash of light that can only mean one thing. Some way, somehow, Vegito's explosion of energy from within his mind reaches outwards and causes an insane explosion that covers the landscape, darkening the sky as black thunder bursts forward everywhere. And when we look at the deities that watch on, luckily for them, both Iwan and Mule manage to survive, though thoroughly trying their best to cover and protect themselves as the wind and pressure from Vegito's power even blows off some of their clothing. While as expected, the unfazed, physically Madara seems to watch on with more curiosity than fear. And once the explosion of energy comes to an end, nothing can actually be seen or detected from within the thick clouds of smoke that remain until something shoots out with terrifying speed straight out of the dust clouds, so fast there would have never been any way to deduce just who or what it was. That is until finally a dark creature lands on the ground with a crash, not letting out any words but just beastly grumbles as if the stranger was less human and more animal. Could this really be who we think it is? And when the figure is finally revealed, all we can see is a pitch black beast. Horns visible and hair similar to Vegito, but any sense of the humanity seems to be well and truly gone. And up in the air, lifted in his left arm, is none other than the Blade of Destruction, indicating even in this primal state, this dark beast is still ready to kill. As the grumbling, mysterious beast begins letting out steaming smoke which bellows out of his gritted mouth, and just one word then can be finally heard. But though that word gave us our biggest clue towards this beast somehow being Vegito, once said, the black beast resorts back to grumbles, staring into the palm of his now clawed hand, marveling at his newfound power, or at least that would be how it seemed. Is that? But now on the ground and more fearful than ever, Mule and Iwan would take notice from a distance. But as we zoom in on Mule, the true state of their fears come to light, as with a trembling voice, Mule would then let out, "What? That can't be the God Killer! Not in a million years! Why does he look like that now? Why does he look like... elusive!" As suddenly, a wave of paralyzing shock and terror explodes through the body of Mule, as sweat drips at speed all across his face at just the mere resemblance to the legendary being that seemingly all of the gods fear. Iwan! This has gotten way too dangerous! We're getting out of here now! And in a quick shock response, Mule would then grab onto the wrist of the stunned into silence Iwan by force and attempt a getaway. But this apparently is not unnoticed by the dark beast, who immediately then squints his eyes in the direction of the gods, before then turning around abruptly to face them, his eyes pinpointed at them in the distance, before... the seemingly now battle-conscious being then lifts his hand quickly into the sky, with his palm facing the duo of destroyers, with only one outcome left on its mind. And immediately, with two clear victims in mind, the Dark Beast fires an even darker ball of ferocious energy straight towards the duo of gods. What's that? And though the ball deceptively looks small at first, by the time it reaches near enough the destroyers, the true size is apparent, almost able to dwarf their bodies, and more than likely enough to erase them instantly. Can't you two fools even get running away, right? But fortunately for Mule and Iwan, out of nowhere to their rescue, the second arrives, sword in hand and ready to seemingly bear the brunt of the blast for them. But as the dark blast reaches within inches, Madara moves his blade back and yells with intensity as if about to slice through the energy until... Your god-killing days will not be continuing while I'm around, Vegito. As immediately, with full confidence, the second slams his legendary blade down onto the blast as if putting down an animal, with thunderous crackling of black lightning roaring all over as he strikes and attempts to push the energy ball back. Huh? But his strike doesn't seem to go exactly as he had first planned, as quickly Madara notices and comments, "Huh? What's this? It's not going back! Impossible! I'm actually trying here! Is my blade dulled?" But as Madara wonders, even more of the unthinkable happens as when we zoom in on the blade of Madara, soon the smallest of hairline fractures and cracks begin to show suddenly. And just like that, as if inevitable, the blade of the second snaps under pressure, cleanly in half as the ball of energy from the Dark Beast just continues to rush forward. Impossible! Eventually shooting past the shocked member of the Five towards its target, while the stunned Madara can only stare forward and mutter, What just happened? He broke the Izanagi! But even the third could do that! But back with the destroyers, who are about to be annihilated themselves, Mule yells out, "No you don't!" And just like that, the two escape at the last second to fight another day. And Madara, noticing from a distance their departure, just thinks to himself, at least I was able to stall enough for those two to actually get out of my way. Before looking back down to the useless broken stub that is now his once legendary weapon, and lets out, "But this is just astonishing. I haven't seen a nick or scratch on this thing in millennia. And here it is now, a useless piece of trash." Before then nonchalantly just dropping the damaged weapon onto the ground, as if having accepted the situation. Before continuing, though the more surprising thing here is that this beast even managed to break out of the eyes of Azuna. That should not be possible for any gods in this realm, let alone a damn mortal. This hasn't happened since him. As right behind Madara now appears a mysterious demon-like figure whose strange eyes that we seem to have seen mentioned a number of times so far. Before the second continues, but he broke through the illusion of sheer mental power alone. The years of horrible conditions in the demon realm made any nightmare I created totally powerless. Surely, this mortal couldn't have done the same? What even triggered this transformation? Did I go too far? But regardless, without too much actual fear or hesitation, Madara then descends immediately towards the ground, standing toe-to-toe with the horned beast, before then grabbing onto his mask once again and inquiring, "So, you seem to be a little stronger than before, aren't you, my dear Vegito? I dare say with those horns, you finally look more like your namesake, God Killer. Is this your true form?" But in response, of course, the near-mute Dark Warrior will just continue to let out ashy smoke from his mouth as he stares down Madara with internalized disdain. Madara now, without his sword though, will just get into a strange fighting stance of his own and respond back, "Huh? Not the talkative type anymore, eh? You seem to have so much more to say than for that little bad dream I put you through, didn't you, Vegito? Well, no matter. In that case, we'll save the small talk and get this over with instead." A beast like you must be put down anyway! As instantly, confirming the confidence of the second, Madara rushes in excitedly like a wild animal, straight for the still sword-wielding creature in front. But just as he throws out his first punch, as if the Black Beast's Ultra Instinct was still intact, it instantly dodges straight out of the way. Until with a devilish laugh that does in fact remind us of Vegito, instantly, mid-attack, the wrist of Madara is grabbed. Huh? Let go, you! What? But before the sentence could even begin to be finished, as if ripping off a rose off its stem, the grinning dark creature would shockingly rip Madara's arm in half within nanoseconds. You vile mortal! Leaving the delirious with shock Madara to scream out in pain, but also pure disbelief in what the transformed God Killer had even just done to him, as blood pours and leaks instantly from his wound. And for the first time with a serious undertone of anger, grabbing onto his now pumping with pain shoulder, Madara would yell, "You truly are full of surprises! How very bizarre. Your speed has jumped at least tenfold to do something like that, not to mention your strength to make a god bleed like this. Seems that dark energy surrounding you now is a little bit more than just aesthetic." But with an increasingly large grin on the pitch-black warrior's face, he would begin giggling as he lifts the ripped forearm of the second before him like a prize trophy. Before crushing it instantly like a mere scrunched up piece of paper. And more notably, as soon as that was done, so too is the forearm instantly erased somehow, without even the mention of the word Hakai. As if the Dark Beast had somehow now reached an all-new level of destruction power mastery while in this state. Think I'm supposed to care about that arm, mortal? You can do with it as you like. As in response, in a surprising turn of events, the second immediately rips off what's left of his arm, straight down to the shoulder, before dropping it with a thud right beside him. But though the bravado before made him seem unbothered, as the atmosphere around the second changes, the true anger within him becomes apparent, as he lets out, "Well done for maiming me, God Killer. For once you actually make guts seem reasonable for falling to the likes of you. But I'm afraid, if you think losing one arm would be enough to weaken me, you're in for a rude awakening." As suddenly, with a rising yell, Madara begins powering up his own energy, with at first no aura appearing except for a rumble on the very surface of the planet, and the air pressure and atmosphere changing dramatically until... With a ferocious roar that resembles the one given off by the beast before him, his entire body becomes enveloped with a tremendously powerful aura that soon spirals into a cylinder that reaches the heavens themselves. And through it, Madara slowly rises from the bottom towards the top, all before the eyes of the dark beast below. But though almost point-blank faced with the humongous power-up, not so much as a flinch can be seen by the demon-like creature, as the wind blows his flowing white hair in all directions. But almost in a spectacle for the ages, the plume of vast energy soon begins to contort and change shape, until suddenly a pair of eyes become visible through what can only be described as a cloak of divine ki, continuing to change shape and form until... Suddenly, standing there complete, now making the dark beast appear as an ant before him, is a giant apparition, dressed in traditional samurai wear and with a sword of his own, as flares of energy begin to ripple off the titan. But as we zoom in on the giant apparition, hidden within its intimidating face is a crystal pentagon, with a familiar, blurred silhouette within. And soon, once peered in even closer, it is of course revealed to be Madara, having unleashed his energy to create this monster that encapsulates him. With his severed arm now giving off strange particles, Madara would then begin saying quaintly, "Ha ha 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 ha. You know, I've had that arm for millennia. But I suppose all good things must come to an end. And a new beginning must eventually start." As suddenly, straight from the playbook of Piccolo, from within Madara's shoulder, an entirely new arm, formed from the same energy that seems to be making up the apparition, is formed in perfect muscular definition. And with his head now bowing in sinister fashion, pleased with himself, Madara would finally say, much better. I believe now, Vegito, you can finally see the difference between myself and Guts. Behold, the power of Madara, second of the 5 strongest in the multiverse! But as Madara makes this declaration of strength, suddenly, the demonic beast just begins to burst out into a cold laughter, as more smoke bellows out, his sharp inhuman teeth begin to bear out. And with the grin growing even larger by the second, the beast would inexplicably begin lifting up the blade of destruction, but not in a fashion that can be used for attacking. At least, not attacking Madara. As suddenly, in a completely unexpected shift, the dark being swipes the blade at himself. Laughing as the blade rushes in at him, now aimed at his face of all targets. The same blade that made cold cuts of Guts himself, now shooting towards the most vulnerable spot on the God Killer. What? What are you doing, fool? The turn of events even shocking Madara as he watches on, trying his hardest to figure out what the motive behind this is until... In incredible fashion, on impact with the dark beast's face, the near unbreakable blade of destruction that cut through even Kachin shatters into multiple pieces as if made of glass. But the shocking feats do not end there. Finally! As out of the shattered remains of the blade, suddenly, a dark mass of energy that can only resemble a mini devil shoots out with a thunderous scream. Huh? No! And though who or what it is remains a mystery to us viewers, to Madara, a sudden wave of fear rushes through his entire body as he mutters, He let out the demon emperor within the sword! To the realm of mortals? You fool!
Come here!
What? But before Madara's fear and panic could reach its peak, just as the demon emperor has his first taste of freedom, instantly it is grabbed by the throat and stopped straight in place, as a completely stunned Emperor just stares into the eyes of its attacker with confusion until... in almost immediate fashion, the entire life force and being of the demon is absorbed straight into the left arm of the darkened Godkin, presumably through usage of the energy absorption device that should still be in his palm. What? And from within the shell of his giant apparition, even the Titan reacts in unison with Madara, moving back in fear and absolute confusion over what had just happened. And when we zoom in on Madara, with his hand raised to his face as if defending himself from the sight he had just witnessed, he mumbles, How did he get rid of a demon emperor so quickly? He just touched it and it vanished. Has his destruction power really risen to the level of affecting even demons? But as Madara wonders what comes next, suddenly the dark beast's body begins to change, lowering in mass while stretching out. The very skin of the creature begins to evaporate off in a smoky mist. All the while, an overjoyed smile can be seen all over its face. And as its entire body is soon lost in the dark smoke, as it eventually dissipates, the eye of a very iconic figure can then be seen. But along with that, an arm and chest now appearing, covered in a familiar fur, and below, a strange tail resembling a Saiyan's, but more demonic in nature. As unbelievably finally revealing himself is Ultra Vegito, but now looking